Right now, this is Ticker News Insight.
Hello and welcome back to Ticker News Insight, where we are looking to focus on the best of business with very clever people joining us from all around the world. I'm your host, Mike Loder, and to our latest story. Ash Knop has just returned from the United Nations Biodiversity Conference COP15 over in Montreal, where his startup, Wilderlands, was invited, having created one of the world's first voluntary biodiversity units that is protecting Australia's most precious habitat, 1 square metre at a time. He's here to tell us more about the trip and of course why many believe that biodiversity is in fact the new carbon. It's good to see you, Ash. Thanks for joining me in the studio.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks for having us. Well, you stated it. Wilderlands is a startup that's created one of the world's first voluntary biodiversity units, which protects Australia's vulnerable habitat 1 square metre at a time.
It's incredible once you break it down like that, and I'm sure there's lots more questions our audience will have. Take us through a bit about the trip to Montreal. You obviously went and got amongst it. It's a huge event, COP15. So take us through a bit about the experience and what you guys brought to the table.
Well, COP15 is without doubt the most significant moment in history for biodiversity. Delegates and leaders from around the world gathered to determine what are we going to do? What is our collective response to this biodiversity crisis? And Wilderlands was invited, having developed one of the world's first voluntary biodiversity credits, which is seen as one of the solutions to this growing crisis. At COP15, nearly 200 countries agreed and committed to protecting 30% of nature by 2030, which was momentous. And from an Australian context, that means we need to protect more than 46 million hectares over the next 7 years. To give you a comp, that's the equivalent of 2 Victorias. Right. And on the back of that, the Australian government, to enable such protection, has also announced the establishment of a voluntary biodiversity credits market, which Wilderlands obviously supports and eagerly awaits.
Okay, so there's movement. That's what I like to hear.
There's
movement, there's progress being made and decisions being made, hopefully for the better. But there's also a lot to talk around why biodiversity loss is, of course, bad for business, hit people where they hurt and they'll start listening. But can you explain this a little bit more and share how you're seeing organisations change or pivot in order to combat what we're seeing?
Certainly. Well, more than half the world's production, $44 trillion, is moderately or highly dependent on nature. Food, fashion, medicine, energy, infrastructure. So simply put, biodiversity loss is bad for business. But right now, there's no real means or incentive for business to actually measure or mitigate against that risk. We've seen organisations globally rally behind the idea of net zero for carbon. And so we anticipate on the back of COP15 and with the adoption of frameworks, international frameworks like the Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, that businesses, we will see a revolution in businesses committing to, talking about and acting around nature positivity.
Absolutely. And of course, consumers are expecting it more and more as time goes on.
That's right. Stakeholders, be they customers, staff, investors, want to see the businesses that they actively engage with doing the right thing for nature.
110%. So how does Wilderlands work? Take us through a bit more about the platform that you guys have put together. It looks incredible and very clever, to say the least.
Thanks, Mike. Well, imagine if you could pick a square metre of vulnerable Australian land and protect it forever. You could learn about its unique flora and fauna, you could zoom in to the exact location of your units, and you could receive regular updates on the work that's being done on the ground. Wilderlands has created a platform that enables individuals and businesses to have a direct and lasting impact on nature for as little as a few dollars. We've created a methodology that incorporates conservation covenants or permanent protection, as well as ongoing land management. And we partner with conservation organisations who do the work on the ground. We unitise the impact of that work, and then we bring those units to market through our platform, Wilderlands, and through distribution channels like carbon resellers.
Okay, I love that there's a gamification and education aspect to all of this. How can people get involved? Where can they download the app and get started if they're interested, Ash?
Yeah, great question. Well, we know intuitively, but People want to protect the planet, but it's not that easy. And so what we've created at Wilderlands is a fairly simple way, a very simple way to engage. Go to Wilderlands website, you can start protecting today, or if you're a business that wants to talk, we can make contact with us and we can together start protecting nature forever.
Incredible stuff from you and great technology to see utilised in such a way. Ash, thank you so much for joining me on the program and of course in studio.
Thanks, Mike.
And of course, thank you to all of you for tuning in to the program today. I've been your host, Mike Loder, and be sure to head to tickernews.co for more. I hope you've learned something from my discussion with Ash. Please go and have a look at Wilderlands and find out how you can help out 1 square metre at a time. See you again soon. Be well.